Hey everyone, this is Christopher Luxon, the former CEO of Air New Zealand.
This is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire.
This is Tracy Ibarra. I'm in Executive Solutions at Dell Technologies.
This is Travis Chappell, founder of Build Your Network. If you are wanting to learn how to embrace change,
To navigate through disruption as a leader,
Then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast.
The Leadership is Changing podcast.
the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend,
my very good friend, Denis Giannoutsos.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsos.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. The purpose of the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world, and I want to welcome you to the Ask Denis episode, which is a freestyle episode that happens once a week. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. Hey listeners, I want to welcome you, and I also want to remind you to check out the Facebook group Leadership is Changing. If you haven't already done that, it's a great community to join, and go ahead and feel free to join that Facebook group. So it's Leadership is Changing. Hey, today I want to talk to you in relation to a topic which I've sort of just titled it as Quit Complaining, Do Something About It. Not sure about you, but what we find is that a lot of people do complain about things. And it could be a whole range of things. Now, sure, this year has been really difficult, trying for a lot of people around the world. And you can't take that away from people. I mean, it's been massive. And the thing here is this. I'm not just talking about what's happened around the world in the last year in relation to pandemics and things like that. But you'll know people will complain about all sorts of things, but they don't do anything about it. They like to sit back and complain. And so today I want to talk to you about the fact that quit complaining, do something about it. And we're going to carry through and talk about that topic as we go. Sure, people are tired. They're emotionally tired, physically tired, and they're looking forward to a great or a break throughout the end of this year into the new year and starting a new leaf, turning over a page and getting underway with things. So we're all looking forward to that break. Now, for a lot of us, there's things that are out of our control. But you know what? When they are out of our control, people would start to worry about them. Some people complain about it. But if it's out of our control, it's out of our control. And there's nothing much that we can do about it. But the other side of it is there's two things that are in our control. Number one is our attitude and the way we react to things. For a lot of people, they feel like they're in pity city, so they're feeling sorry for themselves and feeling a lot of pity. Our attitude is really important. It's that 6-inch gap. It's what we do with our mindset and the way we look at things. And do we have a growth mindset? Or are we someone who looks at things pessimistically and looking for faults and looking for things that are wrong? The second thing is that's in our control is where we're going next. In other words, what are the next steps that you want to do? Well, where do you want to move forward to? Or what are you going to go off and do? And so this is what today's podcast is about. Quit complaining and do something about it. So quit complaining meaning it's out of our control. But what is in our control is doing something about it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. You see, there's no politics, religion, or sporting team that everyone agrees on 100% around the world. But there is one thing that all airlines agree on 100%, And that is, in the unlikely event that your mask drops down in front of you, put your mask on first before you help anyone else. Now, why do they say that? And I know that as I talk to audiences around the world in relation to this actual topic, and I talk about the mask dropping down in front of you, you get to look, I look at people's faces and they smirk, they smile, because they all know what I'm talking about, because we've all experienced, for those who have traveled on airplanes, that we get to experience that. That's part of the safety video that's right up front. And we think about that mask dropping down and putting it on first, because we don't do that ourselves, then we're not going to be helpful or useful to anyone else, because we will collapse and we won't be able to breathe and so forth. So the important thing here is to be able to put on your mask first. Once again, doing something about it is really important. Now, for a lot of people, they've been complaining about all sorts of things. You know the people I mean. They'll complain about anything and everything that they can find. And so they can actually be quite tiring, can be actually quite draining, some of those people. I'm not talking about people who are very good at what they do and they can help and guide and give some solutions around something that may not be right, that could be done better. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's value, that's really good. It's people who sit beside the sidelines or on the sidelines complaining. I remember as a kid and even going to watch family or nephews and nieces play different sports and that. And you look on the sideline and you'll see the mums and the dads and the uncles, the aunties and so forth, the grandparents, they're watching, but there'll be a group of people who are there complaining about the referee. Now, the referee is out there doing a job. A lot of the times it's voluntary. So they'll volunteer to go out there and do it. They're out there doing the best that they can be. And so easy for us to sit back and actually give side commentary and complain about things. But do you see any of those parents maybe getting out there and being a referee? Some do, and some don't. There's some do's because the team from both sides will take a half each, and so the coaches or a parent from each side will actually ref the first half, and then the other side will ref the second half. Getting out there and doing that kind of thing is not always easy, and not everyone's going to do it. So what I'm talking about today is quit complaining and do something about it. Some people complain about things not being done well or done right. And my thoughts are to them again, okay, interesting, I understand where you're coming from, but quit complaining and do something about it. Now, doing something about it, it's not just about also coming along and taking over or things like that. It might be actually providing some solutions, some thoughts, some thought leadership, which would be quite good. So you can aim or go low with comments. What would be really useful is that you go high with comments and you have constructive comments and you have comments which are going to be value add, solution orientated and things like that. Now, a lot of this comes down to the fact that we may even need to change our thought patterns and our words. For a lot of people, they may think in a way that can be quite pessimistic, complaining, whining, whinging, that type of thing. And that's not really going to be useful for anybody. Don't get me wrong, there's times where you just need to actually vent. You need to get some things out. I get that. But it's what you do next. It's that second part of what's in our control, where we're going next. It's what you do with that to move forward. So then how do we change our thoughts? So how might we change our thoughts and our words to become more optimistic, to become more of a growth mindset? Carol Dweck has got a beautiful book out there called Mindset, and it's in relation to growth mindset and so forth. If you haven't checked that book out, do go and check it out. It's a great book to go and read. So what can you do to do something about it? Well, the very first thing is put your hand up. Volunteer to do something about it, to help out and move forward. You see, as I said before, it's easy to comment from the sidelines, but get in the game and do something about it. I always talk about an analogy whereby if you think about a stadium full of, whether it's football, and let's just use football as an example, 22 players on the field, right? 11 on each side. Now, there's 22 people on the field who are in the game, and there's 40,000, 60,000, 80,000 people in the crowd watching. Do you want to be one of the ones in the crowd watching, giving it side commentary? or are you one who wants to do something about it and get in the team and do things and play the game and be on the field? I would love to see you on the field. I would love to see you what you're doing or what you want to do in life. There are a lot of people who have not gone off to go and do what they want to do in life. They use this kind of commentary. Oh, I would have, and I should have, and I could have. And then in hindsight, they'll say, oh, look at that person did it, and I could have done it. But you know what? It comes down to the fact that do something about it. And if you want to go and do something, go ahead and do it. So I've got 3 steps for you to do something about it. Just 3 simple steps to start thinking about. Number 1 would be to step back and get clarity on what you would do. So you might be complaining about things, but when I say do something about it, step back, get some clarity, and think about things, about the way that you would approach things. How would you do it differently? And then you can actually understand where you want to go. Number 2 is make a decision to do something about it. In other words, commit. Make a commitment to do something about it. It all comes back to making a decision, team. For a lot of leaders, a lot of people, they don't make a decision. Sometimes they want that decision to be made for them. The number of times I've had very senior leaders ask me, oh, should I do this or should I do that? Hello, you're a really senior member of an organization. You're a huge organization. You've got hundreds of people following you, and you don't know which way you want to go? Now, a smart leader will actually get people around them within their organization to get their ideas and thoughts and so forth, and then go ahead and make a decision as an organization to move forward. But there are a lot of people who don't want to make decisions. I don't know whether they're afraid of it, but they just don't make decisions. And if you don't make a decision, then a decision will be made for you. Now, you've got to be careful, right? You want to take some control. You want to be able to see where you're going next. That's that second part of that control piece. And so make a decision about doing something about it and commit to doing it and then get on with it. And then getting on with it is the third point, which is go for it. Execute on your plan, your thoughts, on your decision. Go ahead and execute. Do something about it. Take action, take massive action, and go for what you're wanting to do. Now, for some of us, it's going to take some time and some learning. But I know that a little bit of action, just getting out there and do things, is actually going to help you a lot because you're going to learn a lot from it, but you're also going to move forward from it. So there is a sort of like a fourth point, but it's overall that I would say this, is that you need to be willing to reflect yourself based on what you're wanting to do and learn from what you're doing. Because you see, as we complain about things or people and other situations, you know, you can complain about it. But if those people don't or those things aren't being fixed, then yes, you maybe have a right to complain about things as well. But that's where you can do something about it and fix it, make it better. How many times have you seen businesses being launched, innovation done, ideas come about because people were complaining about things, but then they did something about it? Now, the thing here I'm going to say to you is that you need to take time out to be willing to reflect and get some feedback and understand what you could do better and what you're doing really well and what you're going to do differently going forward. So it's really important that you do the reflection as well on what you've actually committed to doing and so forth. So team, let's summarize what I talked about today, because today's topic is about quit complaining and blaming others and do something about it. In other words, step up to the plate and do something about it. You step up to the plate and you bat. If you take a baseball analogy, take the stage. If you take an acting, speaking, playing in an instrument in an orchestra, getting in front, speaking in the choir or singing in the choir, whatever it is, you stepping up to the plate, you doing something about it is going to be really key. Now, you stepping up and taking that step forward is key. So let's do the summary. Quit complaining and blaming others. Step up to the plate and do something about it. The 3 points I talked about was to step back, plan, pull a roadmap together. Next thing was a decision, make a decision and commit to doing something about it. And then the next piece was around execute. Take massive action to do something about it. I also suggest that you reflect. Take some time out to learn about what's going on and what you can do to help things through. This is what I'll say to you, team. You take leadership. You take control. Step up to the plate. It doesn't mean that you take control and you don't allow anyone else to be involved. Take a team with you. Take a team on the journey with you to help you succeed and help everyone else succeed. But at times, an organization, a business, a team, they need a leader. You be that leader. I'm going to encourage you to step up to the plate. I'm going to encourage you to step forward and put your hand up and do something about it. Quit complaining and do something about it. Hey listeners, thanks for joining me on today's show. This is the Ask Denis episode. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown, the unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Hey, look out for the episodes as they're being downloaded and released, and then download them and have a listen to them, put a review and a rating, share them with your friends, your family, people that you know, your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me on the show, or if there's a question you want me to ask my guests as I interview them, or if there's a question for me on the Ask Denis episode, feel free to send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey, once again, team, don't forget to check out the Facebook group, Leadership is Changing. It's a great organization, community, tribe that we have there on Facebook, and look forward to seeing you there. All right, team, always a pleasure to be with you on these episodes. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.